3, 2, 1.
There we go.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2. Is this the real 3, 2, 1? 1, 2, 3.
This is the good one.
This is the good one? Okay. Morning, Powermetrix Nation. How are y'all doing out there? I'm experiencing something that people like JP and others that are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, they don't have experienced this yet, so they don't understand it yet. It's the where you wake up and something hurts and you don't know how you did it. See, when I was in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, when I busted my rear off a roof, jumping out of a plane, flipped out of the back of a pickup truck, well, yeah, you know why you stay. But wait till you get older and you just wake up. I've had this, my back's been stiff as a stomach, and I can't remember. I didn't fall off anything. I didn't take a bad spill. I didn't, so, yeah. So anyway, I got that going on. And then, yeah, I got other stuff with my shoulder and everything. So I'm having one of those days. So I hope y'all are doing well. I'm still having a great day, but just dealing with that kind of junk. If you remember right, we are now on this 6S meter, and at this site we looked and we saw some stuff in there we didn't really like, behind the test switch and some stuff with that test switch and even some skint wires. We saw some things in there that we didn't really like, and we realized that because of how low our load was, it was going to take us a while to get pulses, and all that did happen. Remember, it took us forever to get pulses. And so we're remembering the things that we've been going over in all these, and they all become applicable as you start remembering, well, if I don't have many watts for whatever reason, it's looking for a number of watts before it pulses, so my pulsing will slow down. That's one reason why. I've noticed some things there that I need to keep in mind. If I start seeing some test results, always keep in mind the site inspection I did, which we did here, and saw some things that concerned us a little bit. So looking at all that, and all this is going to come to bear in this, when we actually get to the bottom of this thing of figuring it out. It's a really good one for teaching. So let's look at our schedule. We've got the upcoming schedule here. We've got today we're going to do part 2 of the overhead with the 6S. Then we've got next week is Labor Day week, so there's no webinar Labor Day week. Then the 14th, we're going to have something that's really big. We're going to introduce a new product, so that'll be cool. And it'll offer new capabilities of the equipment. And then the 21st, we're going to finish up with the part 3 of the 6S overhead. And then on the 28th, I've been asked by customers out there on the road to redo the load boost and the benchtop testing web, because they couldn't see the connections real well. So that was early on when I was even worse than I am now. So we will redo that one and go over that again, and by request, because we love it when we get requests out there. So I had some folks come up to me at meter schools and ask me to do that. So we're going to do it. So let's start out with our prayer, and we'll get rolling on that. Some updates for you. I'm praying for Brennan's father, and he seems to be doing all right. Good encouragement and words from that. George's mom also has stabilized. We're just waiting to do a few more tests on her, but she has stabilized and getting her strength back. So that's more good news. Unfortunately, a real good friend of the Powermetrix family, Jim, lost his brother last week to COVID, and his mom's fighting it right now. So we'll definitely be praying for Jim and his family. So let's go ahead right now and go ahead and pray.
How's your mom?
Oh, thanks, JP. Yeah, my mom's fine. She had to get her pacemaker changed out, and she got her pacemaker changed out. So she's ornery as always again. Thanks for asking. And I appreciate that. She went through all her stuff just fine, and it's pretty yucky down there in Louisiana with the weather and everything else. So I'm glad she got through with it before the weather hit. So right before the weather hit, she got it done. So thanks, bud. So let's go ahead and say a quick prayer. Father, thank you so much for this time this morning, not just to learn and to be safer, but which is so critical, Father, people getting home whole to their families, but just this time right now to come to you. It's amazing that we can come to the creator of the entire universe, the creator of all things. We can come to the one true God right now and just say thank you so much for all the things that you've already done, Father, and the things you will do for us. things we don't even see every day, all the little things, me with all my driving, near misses I don't even know about, and the things that you've helped us with. And one day we'll be made aware of all that when we get to heaven. But right now we just ask you to come alongside us. Thank you for the gift of the Holy Spirit, which was part of what your Son did, that now we have someone we can ask to just be alongside us, to guide our words, our actions, and to just give thanks for everything that you do for us, Father, for the people that I mentioned, George and Brennan, and then and I lift up Jim and his family. They've gone through a loss right now, and I just pray that the doctors will have, you will give them knowledge and strength when they're dealing with his mom. And any of these times when it's health stuff, it's tough, Father, because it's the waiting and the not knowing, and especially when it hits close to home. So all of these folks I lift up. And Father, thank you so much for what Jesus did. If he hadn't died on that cross, I couldn't even pray right now. So all of these things I ask and say, according to the will of the one who paid it all, my brother, Jesus Christ. Amen. Cool. So today we're going to talk real quickly. I'm talking again real quick about what leading up to this part of the video. Then we're going to create a site. We're going to test that 6S meter, and everything's getting ready for the big crescendo, which is going to be when we get ready to test the CTs, is where more of the issues will become prevalent, and they'll jump out at us and we'll be able to see them. So what we've got is, if you remember, they had a granite, there was a big granite cutting facility, and then the offices beside it. The granite cutting facility was a 9S meter, and this is a 6S for all the offices. Not much load on the offices at all, we didn't see. You'll notice that there weren't many lights on. We looked and we didn't even see many lights on, so there wasn't there. We know that always makes it tough to test when you don't have much load. We know that. So we're going to be looking at that, checking out our load. We also we noticed over at the other one, because it had all of the saws and the spike and everything. We saw harmonics and stuff over there, and we're going to keep our eye on harmonics again over here, because we don't know if it's just a general issue, something that's going on overall in that site, or if it's just over in the cutting. So we're going to be looking at that as well. So you're going to see here first, we're going to get in there. We're going to go ahead and create a site. We're using a 7 on this site. We've been using 3s, so 7 is a little bit different, because remember, you're going to get your power from the site there when you're using a 7. So we do stack on our A phase and our neutral just to pick up the power to run the 7 series. So it's a little bit different. It has the ground connection that the 3 series does not. But besides that, all the menus and everything look the same. So we may stop a couple of points in here. I may ask you, but we'll go ahead and get rolling. Heard the fan going, so we know the aux power is fine, right? You can't on over here. So we've got, there we go. So we're coming on. So we're going to, I don't know if we have a site in there. Might have to create a site. See if we got 6S in there. Let's see, we'll try number 1. So I guess we could just create a quick site in there. So we've got, okay, so we'll create a site in there. So we're going to make a 6S site. Browlin tells us we got a 6S to test. So we're going to hit new site here. So remember, there are 3 different ways. You can go ahead and roll it if you want to, JP. There are 3 different ways to enter a site, and you can enter it at the machine while you're there, right? You just use these. If you want to put an A in there, you just hit that twice, the old flip phone, right? Or you can do it with, we've given you some USB ports on there, so you can use either wireless keyboard or mouse, or you can use Meter Site Manager, and you can enter sites in on Meter Site Manager, then just put them on a thumb drive and load them and unload them. Okay, so we'll just call this demo. So I'm just going to put in demo.
I'm going to put demo 6. Cool. Okay. So we're going to go, we've done this in the webinars before. We'll jump over to the next field, hitting our forward button here, and we're going to choose a 6. So we got a 4-wire Y. You can see here we got a 4-wire Y. We got 2 voltages, 2 currents. See here, so we got a Z coil. So if we go over here, options. So we're going to go to default 1. So we're going to test the meter. If we go, remember, default 1 is the one that shows up on the equipment. So if we use default 1, we're going to test the meter under the customer load, and we're going to test the CTs up there as well. So we're going to do that. What's my K sub T on this one, Brian?
Let's look at the meter right here and see. KH is going to be 1.8.
1.8.
And then you got your K down here, but you just want to pay attention to the KH up there, that 1.8. That's what you want to enter in.
That's right. So, and we know typically on these transformer rated meters, that's what it is, right?
Yeah,
9S, 6S, it's 1.8.
Yeah.
But we don't want to take anything for granted. We're going to look there on the meter. He's exactly right. We point out 1.8. Right? Okay. So all that looks good. And remember, that's all you need to put in there to start testing. Okay? Anything from the top half of the screen, like we've always said, the top half of the screen.
Okay, so like I'm about to say on here, remember we said just from here up, right? So all you need to do is you just need to enter from here up on there. And then if you do a CT test, then the piece of equipment is going to say, well, I measured 199 to 5, so the nameplate must be 200 to 5. So you don't have to put that in there. If you do put more information in there, you can sort by more information. If you put the size of the CTs in there, if you happen to put, there's extra fields in there, you could put the size of the transformer at that site. And then you could sort by the size of the transformers. You could sort by which meter forms you have in there, by the CT sizes. You can sort by any of that. But here up is all that's required to start testing. Over here was that K sub T we were talking about. And when you put that K sub T in there, what we're looking for is, we're looking for how many watts per pulse. So we're saying that 1.8 watts per pulse. Every time that thing pulses, that's 1.8 watts. So for me to be able to test that thing accurately, I need to know and put that number in there. If you don't put this number in there, it will default to 1 and you will get a jacked up test. Okay, if the K sub T is not 1 and you go to run the test, you're going to get a jacked up test because it will default to 1 right there, okay, if you don't put it in there. So you get rolling down here and then you forget that. So just remember, if you get a funky test on the first site that you create, stop and think, did I put in something for the K sub T, okay? And here when you put in a 6 or a 9 or whatever, it will go to the most common service and service type and fill that in for you. You can always hit the drop downs and change it, but that's the way it starts. So when you hit a 6, it starts at there, a 4-wire Y, 2 voltages, 2 currents. It goes to the most common one, a Z coil. If you need to change that, you can. Same on a 9, it's going to go to a 4-wire Y as well, 3 voltages, 3 currents. Okay? Thanks, JP.
Okay? So we'll go ahead now, we're going to hit select and save and go to that site. I'll get out of your way and let the pro do it. So we've got, so we're at the, I've got you to where you're starting into it. You don't have to put technicians' names or anything in there, do you? You can just go on through that.
I'm going to look up here in the top right of the screen where it says selected site. Make sure you have the correct site selected that you're at.
Yep.
You always want to look at that because without a site selected, you're not going to be able to test anything. So we're just going to go on down here to the integrated site test.
Plus for your record keeping and everything else, you're going to want to keep that site, your database, when you put it on Meter Site Manager.
And remember, default one, the
Looking
default
pretty good.
one test on there is always a customer load test on the meter.
Amps on
and
A
then do
phase, and then you
ratio
got
test.
0.852 on See right there. The vector screen is very important. You always want to look at it, make sure your vectors
That's right.
look good.
Does that A phase look good to you or not good to you? Awful big angle.
Yeah, I mean it's out there. It's out there a little ways.
Because that power factor right there looks pretty darn bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the power factor on A phase is not looking too good at all. I mean, that's a big, huge angle on A phase.
Let's go back to our main vector screen where we can look at the reference and everything.
That's right. Now, we've talked about this before, and that is looking at primary versus secondary, right? We talk about it all the time on the webinars.
So I want you to listen carefully to what I'm about to say here, because I make a boo-boo. I'm always the first one to call out myself. So I make a boo-boo here, and I want you to see if you can catch it. Once again, I wasn't, didn't use both of my brain cells. So just listen up and see if you can hear the boo-boo I make here.
So if you look and see what the reference is, that's the reference vectors. So already, to me, you tell me, you liking what you're seeing?
I don't look too good.
No, it doesn't look too good to me. But we're gonna go ahead and try it. Rotation, it's saying CBA.
Mm-hmm.
You notice that down here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you look at the primary versus secondary?
I didn't yet, no.
Okay. So when you're on remember before you go into a test, you can toggle it, and he's going to do it right now. He's looking at secondary, we can toggle over and look at the primary. So there's definitely a difference between my primary and my secondary. Okay. And what is it showing on my primary? If you hit the table, we ought to be able to see what we've got on the primary, right? Because now we're looking at primary. What are your voltages and currents looking like on your primary? How much you got on primary?
Notice how low. See how low my current is here? So you see how low everything is? Okay. You may have already figured out my
105.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not much on there at all, is it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not much at all. So whatever's going on inside the building, we're thinking right now, there's not much going on, right?
No.
Because I have hardly any amps on my primary right there. And I mean, I got 0.05 amps on my primary. So that would be, but I'm looking at my watts are negative because my power factor is negative. So yeah, there's several things right here.
Frequency down here, 59.
Yeah, and the frequency, it's showing 59. So there are a few things right here that are telling me that are jumping out at me like possible problems, right?
Right.
I didn't like those angles when I saw them a minute ago. I didn't like my vectors. I'm not liking, I don't like my, and the other thing is look at your amperage, look at the harmonics on, you get that JP? Look at the harmonics on, that's a lot of harmonics, man. Normally the two numbers we think of is 8% on voltage and 20% on current for harmonics. Anything over that, it's going to be a problem. And we can see we're way over that on the harmonics. Right there. So that's not good. Okay. So we can go back to secondary again. Just go back, hit your vectors. All right, so you can toggle back and look at your secondary vectors again. It's looking a little better now. So evidently, from what I'm looking at, and tell me if you think that's right, there's obviously a lot of load changing going on. Whatever they're doing inside this facility, there's a lot of load changing because that looks better. I mean, my power factor is looking better now. It's up to that. So it is looking better, but obviously we got something going on the other side of that building. I don't know what they're running back there, but there's something going on. So, okay. So what's the next step? We want to test the meter?
Yeah, let's test the meter, see how it turns out.
All right.
Now remember how light the load was. We saw how light the load was. Would we expect to get a pulse very quickly? No, because remember we're looking for watts.
As we've said in the webinars a bunch of times, we wait for when the big green ball lights up, it'll give us a noise and pulse, and it'll tell us you can start the test. So then we'll be able to start the test. Until we get a good pulse, it won't. And looking at those, would you expect to get one quick or not off what we saw on those screens?
No, it's going to take it a little while.
That's right, because the load was so low.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And this is almost becoming a candidate for a load boost test, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, because with that low a load, that's one of the times you might consider doing a load boost test, where you're actually going to put a load through there, okay? Because it's going to take a long time for us to get pulses out of this with as light as that load was when we looked at those numbers looking at RMS table screens.
All right, we've got our two pulses now, but I wanted to ask you a quick question,
Sure.
John. How did you know we had low primary?
Okay. So
that's a great
Brown's
question,
about to
Brown.
ask me a
And
question.
actually, there is no way I can
why
know.
he's about to ask me that question when you notice. So, what is it that I've made a boo-boo on here? Think about what I've been talking about. I've been talking about taking a look at the primary versus the secondary. Always, you should look at primary versus the secondary. You should toggle pre-test. We keep talking about pre-test. You've got more tabs available to you. You can see connect view, meter view. You can stop and save if you see something squirrely. You can go between primary and secondary. But to be able to go between primary and secondary, something has to be done or I can't look at the primary side. So you're going to see right here, I called myself out right here.
That's a great question, Brian. And actually, there is no way I can know that we have a low primary current because I have nothing reading the primary current right now. I made a bad assumption in my P-brain of thinking we had 3 flexes on there, but these are overhead CTs. So until Brian puts that high volt probe on there, we do not read the primary current, so I can't tell the primary current. So this is one of those times I think if you put another brain cell in my head, it would die of loneliness. But hopefully, I won't be that way the whole week and we'll do a little bit better. But I'm glad you pointed that out. I mentioned earlier about that low primary current. If I had 3 flexes on there, that'd be no problem. We could talk about that right now because we're reading the primary current. But until he puts that high volt probe up there, we can't see the primary current. We did see a low secondary current, but you know what I'm always talking about in the webinars, toggling between primary and secondary current, I have to have something reading the primary current for me to be able to see it. So anyway, all right, so we got actually our third pulse. They're slower because remember we saw those loads being lower, so we're ready to rock and roll, brother. See the screen okay? You need me to give it shade or something? Is it better with shade?
Shaded.
Now remember, we're waiting on the watts, right? Until we get 1.8 watts,
maybe
it's not
with
gonna
such
pulse.
a light load, maybe you ought
And
to
because our loads were so
wait
low,
till you get one.
it's
It'll be
going
a
to
minute.
take forever. It's
Am I
like
gonna be standing
running
here
a
forever?
light load on
Could be.
a phantom
That's
load
what I'm
test.
saying. You heard a minute ago the little beep noise. That's how in
So
between
we've
those
got
is
a
how long
very
we gotta
light
wait.
load here, so it's going to
We
take
had
us
one a little
long.
while ago. We got our third one actually.
Is this one of those go fix yourself a sandwich situations that you're always talking about?
That's right. That's right. These are the pulses. If you have either an extremely light load, like JP, in this situation, like JP said, or when you do those 10 pulses, I'm always talking about you can go grab a sandwich. This is one where you got an extremely light load, so we're just having to wait a while. And this is what makes meter techs crazy. having to sit here and wait. Most of them are out there rocking and rolling and moving, and then they sit here and go, come on, man, come on. Like I said, this would be a site at a time like this, you might even consider a load boost test. The only thing I'll say about the load boost is, remember we're running a drive cable through there. We're going to do that this week, and we're going to actually put some current through the CT. In this case, you'd need a bucket truck. So it's a lot easier when you got a pad mount because you can just get in there and do it yourself. But typically in a situation like this, you're going to have a bucket truck. So if you don't have one, that's why we're trying to do it this way versus having to call a bucket truck out with us to do a load boost test. Hey, 99.877. So from what the meter is seeing, we always got to say it that way, that's what the meter's saying. From what the meter's saying, it is 99.877 correct off of the expected pulses versus the actual pulses. So we talk
about the garbage in, garbage out, whatever the meter's saying, but
pulses,
we know
you can see here,
really slow,
we just count them here,
right?
1, 2, 3, like we say in the webinars.
But
right here,
that long for me to get
pulses
one
expected
pulse.
is off of what
it's
we
taking
measure.
an awful long time. And so I'm already thinking, why is that? You know, because we know that's one of the things that we can catalog in that Rolodex, right?
So you're just passing on that low range, right? Because if you're using 0.2 as pass or fail, if you're no-go, so it's 99.8 to 100.2.
In there where you're
so we're just within, right?
Third, right?
Pretty close.
You could have player reversal on your CTs, and the meter test is just fine, and I'm losing 2/3 of my revenue every single day. So I catalog that. Why is it taking so long to get a pulse?
I wouldn't want to wait and go, oh, that's getting a little bit better, 99.936. So I wouldn't want to wait through 3 pulses of this. I would just get the 1 pulse if it's a passing pulse and go on. So when we were running the test, right when it came up on that screen, right, showing us the test, the integrated site test it was about to perform, we could have went over there and put 30 seconds in 3 revs. Because when you if you don't do that, or if you set up your own integrated site test, it'll be in there. But if you don't, right, it's going to be 0 time, and 3 revs is what comes on the machine. So it's going to wait for 3 revs. If you put the 30 seconds or 3 revs, it's whichever comes first. So this will be a perfect one where you wouldn't have to be sitting out here all day waiting on the pulses. Okay, so it finished out. It stayed at that 99.9. It went to 99.973. So that would be a pass, right? You heard the little chime with the 7 series. So it's telling us that we got a good test on that. So now we'll go to the next test, which is going to be testing the CTs, right?
So we know where we are right now. We've got some things that have kind of started piquing our interest, stuff that could be possible problems here. We didn't like on the site inspection, we saw some things. We noticed it's taken us an awful long time to get pulses. We noticed how low our secondary current is. We're going to be taking a look at the primary current here now coming up and making some comparisons and seeing what's going on. And we've also noticed, like we said, there's some things here that make us think that there's issues here. Okay, we probably are going to find issues here. It took a long time to get the pulses. Some of the physical things we saw there didn't look so good. So we're kind of anxious to see what happens when we get ready to test the CTs. Notice that 30 seconds or 3 revs right then. That's when you saw how long you can sit there and wait if you don't put 30 seconds or 3 revs. If you just leave it 3 revs, it's going 3 revs even when you have a very light load, which is what we had in this case, and then you're going to be sitting there a long time, okay? As JP pointed out on site, he said, and it is. So we're not going to have a webinar Labor Day week, day after Labor Day. Everybody enjoy their Labor Day week. Then the 14th we'll be introducing a new product. It's going to be pretty cool, some technology we've got. The 21st we will finish up this overhead 6S site. We'll test out those C problems there. Then the next week we are going to redo the load boost / benchtop test. one that was, we were, by request, we were asked to redo that one. So you could see the connections better on that one. And then we'll go into, in the meantime, please send us in what you would like to see. We've still got plenty of them left that we can, these, on-site tests. So please send something in and let JP know which one you'd like to see. Maybe he'll send something out and say, here are the ones that are left. Pick one out. And
that new product that we're introducing, is that going to help people that work where it's hot?
Absolutely.
Is it going to help people that work where it's cold?
Yes, it will help.
What about bad weather?
Yeah, it's the timing on this is actually not too bad. With the hurricanes and everything, and with all this, it's staying hot really, really late this year. Some years by now it's already started cooling off. Here in Knox Vegas, it is not cooling off at all. So it's not football weather for sure. Football's about to start, but it isn't football weather yet. So yeah, thanks for the little teaser there, JP. What you're going to see coming is going to allow folks to not be out in the elements as much. It's going to be a lot safer for them, getting some distance away from the site. And you're right, with the inclement weather and everything that's going on these days, it would be a lot easier if you had this. It would make your life a lot better out there. So we're trying to help the meter techs who are our peeps out their job be safer and a little bit better out there. So so please tune in the 14th and see it. It's going to be pretty cool. All right. So appreciate y'all. Thanks. God bless. Be careful out there. All right.